Welcome to The Ripple, where extraordinary women executives get real about their career journeys. This season, thanks to our partnership with GNW Consulting, you'll hear even more stories from women leaders about how they're building visibility for themselves, their careers, and their companies. I'm your host, Ashley Lobbs, and today we're joined by the inspiring Lorraine K. Lee. She's the author of Unforgettable Presence, Get Seen, Gain Influence, and Catapult Your Career, and the founder of Rise Learning Solutions. She's here to chat with us about what it means to be more intentional with your professional presence. Lorraine, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so pumped to talk to you.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's so nice to talk to other folks who are focused on visibility and building personal brand, getting your message out there, which is why I'm so excited to talk to you about your book, Unforgettable Presence, and just your own journey building your visibility. So to give folks a little bit of context, can you tell me the why behind your book?
The book was not something that was on my vision board, on my bingo card. Like, it really kind of, I in my mind, after a few years in business, I was like, oh, maybe a book would be good, but it wasn't anything I was actively pursuing. And so I think it came at the perfect time. So I was in tech for the first decade of my career, ended up getting impacted by the tech layoffs, and then had to decide, do I want to apply for a job again, or do I want to go do my own thing? So I decided to do my own thing. And after a year in business, a publisher reached out to me on LinkedIn and asked, have you ever thought about writing a book? And the idea had gotten planted in my head from former colleagues, maybe like within the year prior. And so I sort of had it like lingering in the back of my mind, but it wasn't something I was actively pursuing. And then when the publisher reached out, a few more publishers reached out after that. And I just thought it was, universe telling me that it was time to do this thing. I felt like I was in a good place to sort of gather all my ideas and my content together to really help as many people as I could in a more organized way. And I think a book is such like a nice physical giveaway and sort of summary of all your work that you can share with others. So yeah, that's how it came to be, but it wasn't something I've been dreaming about for so long, but I'm so happy that I did it.
Yeah, well, I think that it's going to benefit a lot of people. And I know that the book is a lot about being intentional with your professional presence. How did that become important for you as you were making the transition between the tech world and starting your own business?
The beginning of the book, I talk about my personal story being at LinkedIn. So amazing experience at LinkedIn. I was there for 6 years during my formative 20s, and I worked really hard, got to work on really high priority, high visibility projects, and was well liked. And so you would think all these things on paper would be what was needed to get a promotion or to advance. And I frustratingly realized, okay, these are not the things that are getting me promoted. I kept pushing and like wanting to advance and to move up, but it just wasn't happening for me even after so many years at the company. And so it wasn't until I left LinkedIn where I had some time to, okay, think more thoughtfully, talk to mentors and peers. What was the missing ingredient? And really it came down to presence, more so in terms of how others perceived me. I think the more traditional sense of presence. But then a few months later, COVID happened and I was at Prezi and they were really leaning into virtual presentations. And I realized, presence is not just about how others see you, but also where others see you. So you can have a presence on video, you can have a presence on LinkedIn. Presence is even in chat channels through your emails. And I realized that I really resonated with this definition of presence a lot more because to me, it's about being intentional, about all these really important touch points that we have in a given day. And it's not executive presence per se, right? That's one piece of presence, but that's, presence more holistically is about, okay, how can I be intentional with these smaller moments and really step up and do even better on top of the already great work that I'm doing? And that's how you build your presence over time.
Yeah, I think you said something really important about your own experience, which is that it was surprising to you that you were well liked and you were working on high visibility projects, right? And I think that's a combination of things that we often think that's going to get me there, right?
Yep.
I'm doing the important stuff and people like me. And it wasn't, right? It still felt like there was something missing. And I think a lot of people, especially women, can relate to that feeling. And so what I'm hearing you say is that in addition to those things, it was really about you showing up in more places, having more opportunities to create consistency of like that awareness and that message and just like people's familiarity with you.
Yeah, I think presence is really about being seen by the right people in the right places at the right time. So, to your point, like all those things, how I describe myself and how you're sort of interpreting it is like, yeah, those are great qualities. But if you are trying to reach a certain level, those qualities are good maybe at like junior or like mid level. But if you're trying to be a senior leader, you have to start thinking about, okay, what do people see as a leader? And so career brand is another concept I talk about in my book about I wish I had known about the idea of a brand and actually been thoughtful about it. So, at LinkedIn, probably people would describe me as a great doer, like someone who executes well, someone who's reliable. All good things, but a leader is viewed as more strategic, visionary, great cross functional collaborator, someone who can connect the dots. So if I had understood, okay, good work is not enough, it's about, okay, how do others perceive me? How can I be strategic about the work that I'm doing and not just doing the work? That would have gone a long way.
Yeah, and also once you are doing that different kind of work, right? Because it's not that it's not work, it's just different work.
Yeah.
Creating visibility for that and letting people know sometimes, hey, I'm doing something different than you knew, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why it's so important to document what you're doing. One of the best pieces of advice one of my managers gave at LinkedIn was she said to document even like the smallest things that you don't think like you wouldn't even tell your manager about. It's like, "Oh, I helped a colleague do this or I sent this document." Like you don't realize all the random little things that add up in a day and your manager doesn't know either. And when you can do that, it helps you prioritize and realize, "Oh, perhaps I should be shifting my time to this versus kind of feeling productive, but maybe doing lower impact work."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, something else that you said that really captures my attention is the word intention. Being intentional with our professional presence, I think, is sort of an abstract concept. We talk so much about personal brand and values and alignment and these things, but sometimes when you talk about being intentional, it can morph into a darker version of itself where it's like, well, my intention is to be seen as an expert, to be seen as a leader. And that intention takes you away from your authenticity because you're performing in some way. Can you speak to that phenomenon? Like, how do you maintain the integrity, the authenticity of your intention when you're doing this?
I really see intention as being proactive and taking control of your career. So in the book, I talk about this concept of becoming the CEO of your own career. And what I learned being at LinkedIn was I let a lot of things happen to me. And I made certain assumptions. Oh, I've been here for 6 years. Oh, I worked on this thing. Oh, people like me. Like all these things I just assumed eventually would lead to that promotion, to that next level, to that visibility that I so badly wanted. And then when I left LinkedIn, I had to really think, okay, what is it that I want and how can I be really thoughtful about the steps that I take in order to get there? So it's not just saying I want a promotion, but it's realizing, oh, okay, my manager has to decide and then also my manager is in a room with a bunch of other managers who are deciding whether I should get promoted. And so, oh, I need to have conversations with them and let them know and advocate for myself. And oh, it's not just about, doing the annual review and saying I want a promotion at that time. Oh, I have to actually be intentional and start planning this 6 months ahead of time or however long, it takes, but finding out that information, right, based on your company. So it's really about taking things into your own hands and realizing that we do have more control sometimes than we realize in shaping perception and shaping outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that happens so often when we have people who are our managers or just in other positions of power, and you start hearing the message like, oh, we're paying attention to you. Oh, there's potential for this. We're looking at your leadership potential. However, they say it, I
Yeah.
think once that carrot gets dangled and that potential is sitting out there on the horizon, sometimes it's easy to relinquish your power in the situation and just wait for that to come to you because it's like, oh, well, they're noticing. So I'm just going to let them do that.
Yeah, we can't assume anything. Even if our manager is the best manager, and I've been so blessed to have so many great managers, they are so busy, especially now, like so much changing, right, in our workplaces. So they're busy with their career, they're busy managing up with their manager, they have the rest of the team members. So it's again intentionality. Like I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to not just assume that, you're going to remember because I've said it once, but how can I tactfully keep bringing it up and keep proving myself, showing myself, being explicit about what my goals are?
Yeah. It's really powerful to think about that in your career because so often people can feel like they're a cog in the system,
Yep.
right? But this is also super important for your own business, which you started your own business. And I'm curious how being intentional with your presence changed when you were in charge and when it was your vision, your business, and just you out there on your own.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot has changed since corporate. I would say I'm out there more, like talking about myself more. Now that's super important still when you're in corporate and advocating for yourself, but really again, at the end of the day, whether you're in corporate, like your best advocate is going to be you. When you're in your business, your best advocate is going to be you. And there's I think additional times maybe or moments that you have to feel comfortable talking about yourself. So to let people know, right? You don't have a bunch of coworkers around you saying great things about you. So how can I really put myself out there so people know what I'm about, they know what I'm an expert in, they know what it's like working with me? Thinking about your question, I think about the book launch and the marketing behind it and just how uncomfortable it was because a book launch, you really have to repeat yourself. I mean, you have to talk about it like every single day. And
Yeah.
I had a book coach to talk about this, and I was like, I just like, are people going to get annoyed? Like, this just feels like so much. And she sort of framed it as, you're being selfish if you don't talk about it because this book is going to help people. Like, you have to let people know, otherwise, no one's going to know about the book. And so, yeah, just like really putting yourself out there, I think even more so than in corporate, perhaps it was sort of that transition and adjustment for me. That's, still goes on as an introvert. I don't really like being out there so much, but you have to do it.
Well, for everyone listening, I think it should be pretty reassuring that somebody who not only did this in corporate, but started a business talking about this, wrote a book about this, it's still a bit of a struggle, right?
Yeah.
There's still that
Yeah.
discomfort, and you worry because you empathize with people, you worry that it's
Yeah.
going to be too much. But it's a great point that it is selfish to keep your gifts from the world when you can help people, when you can just connect with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good call out.
Yeah, absolutely. On the Ripple, you know we are constantly in conversation with leaders who tell it like it is. No Instagram perfect filters. So let's be honest. When you start a new role, you've likely opened a set of reports and dashboards and immediately thought, what even is this? If that's you, or if it's ever been you, you are not alone. GNW Consulting helps marketing leaders get clarity fast. They'll audit your systems, make sense of your MarTech stack, and give you a clear path forward. No tech decodering required. Whether you're new to the team or just ready for a reset, GNW can help you lead with confidence from day one. Plus, they're a huge supporter of Wednesday Women and our goal to amplify women and support women executives. So visit gnwconsulting.com to see how they're helping leaders like you get to market faster with less friction. I guess I want to hear more about your journey coming to this place because you describe yourself as an introvert. You describe your own experience being maybe forgettable, right? And not sharing this information. How did it feel when you started stepping into visibility in your career and later in your business? Did it change the way you felt about yourself?
It felt great. Every time I made that leap or took a risk, like that's really when my confidence grew. And so working at LinkedIn, amazing, like I said, scary to leave such a wonderful place after 6 years. And then I went to Prezi, and then I got to be a manager for the first time. And when you do things you haven't done before, even if you're not 100% sure how to do them, or even if you're scared, that's really where the growth happens. So that was an exponential jump. Then when I started wanting to learn how to be a better public speaker, that was the next jump in terms of, again, exponential growth and confidence. And then, of course, starting my own business, that was another jump. So you're not often going to know like what the outcome is going to be. That's obviously the scary part of it. But I can say really like doing the hard thing, that's what's really allowed me to keep pushing myself. And even as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you have many listeners who are in corporate who are maybe thinking about it. Like, grass always looks greener on the other side. I didn't know if I was going to like this or even be good at it. I wanted to give myself a shot. I think I am, my personality is pretty well suited for it. And in terms of like my hustle and just being okay being out there. But yeah, sometimes like you don't know it until you do it. But I don't want people to stop themselves because they're not sure what the outcome would be. That would be like the worst thing, right? Where you don't even give yourself the chance.
Yeah, you're just asking to feel some resentment later because you didn't try.
Yeah. And like, even if it doesn't turn out how you want it to, like, that's again, like, that's where you grow and you build resilience. And then you're going to be even more ready for the next big thing.
Yeah, I think something that's so hard about that is just the risk, right? Whether it's real or just perceived, it feels like doing the hard thing is a risk, or else we'd probably be more prone to do it.
Exactly.
Can you tell me about what felt like a risk for you stepping into visibility and why was it risky?
In my head, the risk was what will others think? It's not really a risk. In my head, you think it's like risky, like, oh my gosh, people are going to be judging me or thinking certain things about me. Whether that is speaking up in a meeting, whether that is posting on LinkedIn, right? All these things inherently involve perhaps some judgment of people from the outside. But I think the biggest risk again is like just not even trying because you're worried about what other people may think or because you yourself are putting yourself down because you're nervous to do something or you're not sure of the outcome. I think we really have to, and it's hard, but really be willing to take that leap. And the way we do that is by, maybe starting off a little bit smaller, but you build. And the more you do it, the shorter time it's going to take the next time for you to build up that confidence before you actually do the thing.
Yeah, it's so telling because what you're describing is a super common thought that the risk is what people will think of you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And when that becomes the obstacle, when that is what's at stake,
Mhm.
you examine that just a littlest bit and it's suddenly, well, oh, I guess I believe that, having the approval of others and having them like me is actually more important than what I'm good at or what I care about, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of a bummer when you realize that.
Yeah.
And you just have to go for it. You have to forget that. But it's so hard because we're a social species.
Yeah. And I'll add to that actually the idea of the spotlight effect and how we think everyone's judging us and cares about us as much as we do, but we are our own harshest critics. I see it time and time again when I coach people in presenting. Myself as well, I'll especially early days, I would record myself and think, oh my gosh, I really messed up that part, or like, oh, I sounded so awkward. And I'll watch the recording and I'm like, oh, actually, that looks fine. So
Yeah,
we just get in our heads. We think everyone cares, and they're just like nitpicking, analyzing every single thing, but they're not because they're worried about themselves.
totally. And sometimes people like the little things that you mess up or the ways that you're not like everyone else. I went through this actually with the podcast because I'm from the Midwest. I have a little bit of a Midwestern accent. People notice it. And that's something that I was always sensitive about stepping into recordings of any kind. I always hated hearing recordings of my voice because I thought something about my Midwestern accent made me sound like low class or juvenile or just something,
Yeah.
like I really did not have positive connotations about it. And I've been surprised because we have a whole season under our belt now. And people come out and they say, oh, like your voice is really sweet. I like listening to you.
I actually was thinking that too when you were talking. I was like, what a very calming voice. Like seriously, like just a few minutes ago.
Thank you. That's really
Yeah.
nice. And
Yeah.
I'm always surprised by it because it's one of those things that I still sometimes criticize myself for a lot. And, proofs in this conversation, some of the things that you don't like about yourself, they're things that might have kept me from doing this in the past. And I just decided, hey, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
And now it's something that people like listening to this podcast for. I want to wrap up our time together thinking about another important word. We talked about intention.
Mhm.
I want to talk about unforgettable because it's in the title of your book. And I want to discuss what it means to be unforgettable because I think it's related to this idea of risk. To be unforgettable, I would think is to be sort of polarizing. What do you think?
certainly that's one way. To me, as I mentioned before, like at that time at LinkedIn, feeling really overlooked. And so to me, like the opposite of feeling overlooked is where people remember you and they're talking about you and saying good things about you when you're not in the room. And so unforgettable, I think is even more essential in today's workplaces because there's so much change happening. We're hybrid, we're in person, we're remote, like everyone's all over the place. Like how do you really stand out and how do you really ensure that you're being visible, that you're being seen? And so to me, that's what unforgettable is. It's people know who you are, they know what you're about, they think of you for opportunities. And that's going to be the best way to stand out, leaning into those people, human-centered skills, the presence skills. Those are going to be some of the most fundamental parts of business, the relationship building, the cross-functional collaboration. These are all things that we should be doubling down on in order to become unforgettable and to not be, just a number or someone who can, quote unquote, be easily replaced by AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how do we take that idea and help people embody it without going overboard and believing that being unforgettable means I have to do it all. I have to do it all alone. I have to do it perfectly all the time. Like I have to be perfect and ready at every moment of my life, just this hyper vigilance and this hyper hustle. Like, what's your advice to people who are maybe tempted to do that in response to the idea of becoming unforgettable?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm most proud of in my book and pretty much with any content that I create is that I want it to be really tactical, really actionable, and not overwhelming. Because to your point, like, yeah, it can feel like intentionality, presence, like these are big topics, and you're like, where do I even start building my
Yeah.
brand? So there's chapters that are broken down, and it's very tactical. And so I would say find the chapter that maybe you need the most support on, the topic that you need the most help on, and just take it step by step. Like the whole point of this concept, this new way that I'm defining presence is that it is the small steps that build up over time. So it's not like, oh my gosh, I have to fix this thing ASAP and it's going to take me like hours on end. It's okay, let me adjust this or let me try using this phrase instead and see how that slowly starts helping me build my confidence and then shifting perceptions of me. So baby steps, don't feel like you have to rush into it. This is a long game. Our careers are a long game. Presence is built up over time. And so don't feel pressure to get it right 100% right away.
Thank you for that advice. I think a lot of people probably need to hear that because we all want to be unforgettable. We all want those opportunities, and it's so hard to play the long game. I want to finish up just by asking you to reflect on your work maybe in a different way.
Sure.
But how do you think that everything you've done with the book and the business that you're building, and I'm sure lots of mentorship of people over the years, how do you think that your own visibility journey is helping other women in theirs?
I get a lot of comments or messages on LinkedIn about how people appreciate, as a woman or an Asian American woman too, like seeing a face that isn't necessarily always sort of front and center, being more front and center on LinkedIn. So I'm always very, very touched when I get messages like that. And it's not something that I'm like so intentionally like, oh, I'm going to be like the face of, but I'm very honored that people see me in that way. And yeah, I again, it's like you put yourself out there. Someone needs to hear your story. Someone needs to hear your experience. It's going to help someone out there. And so I have found that to be a really valuable piece. And then, yeah, being able to continue my work speaking to women's groups at organizations is also very meaningful to me as well. So, yeah, I think the power of womanhood, like sticking together and just raising each other up. Like I meet so many people doing this work, and I'm just always so impressed and just appreciative of the other women who lift me up and who I can lift up as well.
Absolutely. There's really nothing like the sisterhood that you find
Yes.
wherever you go. I completely agree.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad to hear that people see themselves in you and feel a
Yeah.
little bit more permission to stand in the spotlight. That's a really powerful feeling.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Lorraine. I'm so excited to see you on LinkedIn, follow your journey, and shout you out to everyone I know because I think your message is such a needed one right now.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Ashley. This is a lot of fun.
Now that we're at the end of today's episode, We hope you'll reflect on how Lorraine's story might inspire your own. Where have you been avoiding being present? And how can sharing your experiences help others? If today's show inspired you to think of an extraordinary woman leader in your life, let her know about the Wednesday Women Executive Membership. It's a safe space for women leaders to tackle any challenge, ask questions, and uplift others. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Your ratings help us grow and inspire even more people. Thank you to our Season 2 sponsor, GNW Consulting, to our executive producers, Melissa Moody and Leslie Greenwood, and to our technical producer, Yelena Georgievich, with Kind Media Productions. I'm your host, Ashley Lobbs, hoping this small ripple creates a big wave in your life. Until next time.